Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my April wrap-up. So April was a pretty good reading month. As always, we'll start off with my April statistics. So I read a total of 22 books in the month of April. I also DNF'd one other book. The 22 books was made up of 21 novels and 1 children's book. I read 11 books in physical copy, 3 ebooks, and I listened to 8 audiobooks in the month of April. Excluding the audiobooks, as always, I read 10 books that I own and 4 from the library. I read a total of 7,673 pages in the month of April, which averaged out to 256 pages per day, which I'm really happy with. The shortest book that I read was 126 pages, which was, of course, the children's book. And the longest book that I read in the month of April was 591 pages. The highest star rating that I gave in the month was a 4.5 star rating, and the lowest star rating that I gave was a 2 star. My average star rating for the month was 3.41 stars, which is not too bad. So those are all of the statistics. Let's jump in and talk about the books. I, as always, filmed a mid-month wrap-up, which I'll link in the cards for you guys if you haven't checked it out yet. I talked about the first 12 books that I read from the 1st through the 15th in that video, so I will just be talking about the 10 books here that I read from the 16th through the 30th. So let's jump in and talk about all 10 of those books. The first book I want to talk about is The Secret Mother by Shalini Boland. This is a adult thriller that I read for the Deadly Divas book group on Goodreads, which is run by Lisa over at Books and Smiles. She's one of the hosts of that Goodreads group. I really enjoyed this. So this is basically a thriller that follows a woman who returns home one day and finds a little boy in her kitchen, and he asks her, like, "Are you my mummy?" And she's like, "No, you're not my child." And it all just kind of kicks off from there. Really enjoyable thriller. It was really like fast paced, really easy to read. I did have a lot of questions when I finished the book. Like, not a lot of questions, but there were a few like unanswered questions. But overall it was really enjoyable, and in the end I gave that one 4 stars. Next on audio, I listened to The Dollhouse by Fiona Davis. This one is narrated on audio by Tavia Gilbert. This is a dual timeline story set in modern day with a woman who lives in the I can't remember what it's called now, the hotel where Sylvia Plath famously once lived, and it's now an apartment building, and she learns that there's this woman who has a scar down her face, who she received the scar when another woman fell to her death back in the 50s. And so you get then the perspective, sorry, the timeline also of the story from the 1950s of this woman, plus the time in modern times, the timeline in modern times when she is trying to figure out what happened back in the 50s. This was okay. It wasn't bad, but I just didn't find the story particularly gripping. You kind of get told, like, this is something that happened, and then you go back in time and you just kind of build up to exactly what you were told happened. There wasn't any big, like, shocking moments, or it wasn't very suspenseful. That's the cat attacking stuff out in the hallway, if you can hear that. But yeah, so it was okay, but nothing fantastic. In the end, I gave that one 3 stars. I then read Pretty Baby by Mary Kubica. This is another adult thriller. This one is about a woman who takes in a homeless girl, like a homeless kind of teenage girl who has a baby. She takes them into her home, and it all kind of just goes from there. I'm not going to tell you too much more than that. My cat's gone crazy. This one, I read a Mary Kubica book earlier in the month, and I didn't love it, and I didn't love this one either. I did think this one was a little bit better, but the main problem I have with Mary Kubica's books is they're very slow moving, like for thrillers. Very slow moving. I did think the plot in this one was a little bit better than in her other book. Trigger warnings in this one for sexual abuse, but overall it just was a little bit lackluster and just not really exciting or gripping, and in the end I gave this one 3 stars as well. Next on audio, I listened to If I'm Found by Terry Blackstock. This one is narrated on audio by Kate Rudd. This one, I enjoyed this series. This is the 2nd book in the trilogy, and I didn't think when the 1st book ended that it needed to be a trilogy. Like, I really feel like they could have finished off the story with just like 50 to 100 pages added to that one. And this book, to be honest, is almost like a bit of a repeat of what happens. in the first book, kind of just like the same type of storyline over again. And I do struggle with it being all very convenient. Like, we have this girl who's on the run. So basically this woman found the dead body of her best friend, and she knows that she's going to be framed for his murder, and so she goes on the run. And then you have this kind of man who's been hired by the family of the dead man to find her. And you kind of got both of their perspectives of him trying to find her, her on the run, yada yada. Everywhere she goes on the run, though, like, she gets a job straight away really easily. There's always someone who needs her help that she has to help with, and, you know, put being in the run, like, in danger because she's got to help this person, which, you know, means that maybe she's going to get caught, you know, all of that type of thing. This is also a Christian book, and it's, to me, very heavy-handed on the Christian themes, but I'm not the target audience, so that's fine. I did think this one has very good PTSD rep. The man who's trying to find the woman who's on the run is a he's returned from active service overseas in the US military, and he is suffering from PTSD. So trigger warnings in this for PTSD, for suicide, and for child molestation as well. But it was enjoyable. It's not my favorite book, but I will continue on to the last one. Like I said, it's enjoyable. I gave that one 3 stars. I then read Defending Jacob by William Landay, another adult thriller. This one is about a prosecutor whose teenage son, there's a boy in his teenage son's class, like in year at school, who is found murdered, and evidence starts to come to light that points to his son Jacob as being the killer, and the story just kind of all goes from there. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a pretty gripping, like, I was like really involved in the story, you know, I really was wanting to know what was going on, so really enjoyed it. I also thought they had some good commentary in there on, you know, whether Jacob did or did not commit this crime. Does that mean that he's a good person? Because kind of throughout the story, you get all these people saying, you know, and you don't know whether he did it or not, but you've got people saying, you know, oh, but he does this type of thing, and you start to think that maybe just because, even, like, if he didn't do it, does that mean that it doesn't mean he maybe doesn't need help and doesn't have some psychological problems? And, you know, having psychological problems doesn't make you a killer. There's, like, but, you know, there's that whole type of thing in there. I found that really, really interesting. The ending I liked. There was part of it I was a bit like, on, but for the most part I did enjoy the ending. Really enjoyable thriller. I gave that one 4 stars. Next, I read The Lake House by Kate Morton. This is another kind of dual timeline type story. This one follows a kind of disgraced police detective who comes across this house, basically, near where her grandfather now lives. It's like this house that's been abandoned, and she discovers that there was an unsolved mystery to do with this house where a little boy went missing, and she decides that she's going to try figure out kind of what went on. And so you've got her trying to figure out what's going on. You've got several in the past timelines. You've got a teenage girl from the family around the time that the little boy went missing. You know, I'm not going to tell you too much more than that. You kind of get the gist. I did really enjoy this. I really liked the mystery. It was one of those things where towards the end there were a few too many like conveniences in the kind of like interweaving of the mystery, but it was really enjoyable. Like I said, I really liked the writing. I do own another book by this author, which I do look forward to reading. I'll definitely check out more by her. Trigger warnings in this one for PTSD as well. The father of the teenage girl in this served in World War... My cat, ladies and gentlemen, served in World War I and is suffering from what was then called shell shock. So you do get some commentary on that as well, but I did really, really enjoy this. I gave this one 4 stars. I then read The Reunion by Samantha Hayes. This is one that I had out from NetGalley, another adult thriller. This one is basically about a girl who was about 17 and her younger sister who was about 13, I think she was, goes missing. She went off on her own to buy an ice cream, never returns. It's years and years later, like 20 some years. I don't even know how long. I can't remember how long it is, but the main character is now in her like late 30s, thereabouts. And you've got her organising a reunion of all of the friends that were around at that time, and you kind of obviously got this unsolved mystery going on as well. I was really excited for this. I thought it was going to be really fun mystery. I really didn't like it. I did not like a single one of the characters, and I know in thrillers you're not always supposed to like the characters, but it wasn't even that they were fun to dislike. A lot of them were just really boring characters. There's also some stuff in here with like statutory rape type issues, which I'm real not into. Just overall, like the mystery wasn't that gripping either. I didn't like the writing. The writing was really stilted. I'm just not a fan of this one at all, and I gave it 2 stars. Next, I read Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. This is a young adult contemporary novel about a main character named Emily, whose best friend Sloane goes missing at the start of the summer holidays. Sloane and her parents are both gone, and she doesn't know where Sloane is, and then she receives in the mail a list from Sloane, like a bucket list type thing of things that Sloane, well, Emily assumes that they're things that Sloane wants her to do over the summer holidays, things like steal something, break something, dance until dawn, hug a Jamie, things like that. So I really enjoyed this. I loved that this, to me, is more coming of age than romance. It does have romance in here, and I enjoyed the romance, but I really liked the, Emily really finding herself. I thought Emily was a really, really relatable character. I also really love, friendship themes is one of my favorite things in books, and I really loved all the friendship themes in here, all the discussion about, you know, Emily and Sloane, how close of friends they were, and how important that was to Emily, and how that kind of can shape, like how a friendship can really shape who you become as a person. Really loved all that. This is my favorite book that I read in April. Really, really enjoyed this. I gave this 4.5 stars. I then had my DNF, so I went from like the best book to, I guess, the worst book, but I didn't rate it. I read 31 pages of The Book of Love by Philippa Fioretti. This, I couldn't even really tell you what it's about. It's basically, it's kind of about this couple who own some kind of bookshop, but they get this really rare, really ancient book in that's worth like millions of dollars, and then someone contacts them to say that the book was stolen and that they need to like return the book, and then I don't really know what's supposed to happen from there. I really didn't like the writing. It was the type of thing, and this can be enjoyable, where all of the pages, like every page, there was like 1 or 2 page breaks at least within the page. Like everything was written in really short chunks, but it was very stilted, and I just didn't like the writing. I didn't like any of the characters like so far that we had so far. And having said I only read 31 pages, this is only a 300-page book, so I did read about 10% of it. I just really didn't like it. I just decided I really didn't care, and it was overdue to the library, so I was just like, meh, whatever, I'm not going to finish it, and so I did decide to DNF that one. Next, I read Dead End by Emily Rodda. This is the final book in the Teen Power Inc. / Raven Hills Mystery series. It wasn't my favorite in the series or anything, but I really enjoyed it. This is a very nostalgic series for me. It's a series that I'm rereading from my childhood. Really enjoyed it. I'm sad that it's over, but I'm happy that I reread this entire series. And I wasn't sure when I decided to reread the series if I did read the whole series originally, but I'm pretty sure I did because this book was familiar to me. Really enjoyed it. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but I gave this one 3.5 stars. And then the final book that I read in the month of April, which, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this book when I did the last clip of my April reading vlog, is a book that I listened to on audio. It is The Greatest Challenge of Them All by Stephanie Laurens. This is narrated by Matthew Brenner? Brenner, yeah. Brenner. I think it's just pronounced Brenner. Sorry. This is the 3rd and final book in the Devil's Brood trilogy. Again, this one was just okay for me. All of the 3 books in this have just been okay. I really love the feminist leads, and the romance part of it, like, generally is alright, but there is, like, an overarching plot kind of weaving through the 3 books in the trilogy, and I just really didn't care about that plot. Like, there was nothing about it that really drew me in, and especially over 3 books, you would expect by the end I would maybe care about the outcome. I really didn't care about the outcome. And it also has an epilogue at the end of this book, being the 3rd book in the trilogy, and the epilogue is like 4 or 5 chapters long. Like, who needs a 4 or 5 chapter epilogue? I sure don't. So, again, it was okay. I didn't hate this book or anything. I enjoyed it for what it was, but nothing amazing. In the end, I gave that one 3 stars. So those were all of the books that I read in the month of April. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I read, if you have any thoughts. I'd love to chat about how your April reading month went. What was your favourite book that you read in April? What was your least favourite book that you read in April? I would love to know. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That's all I've got for this video today. Bye guys.